Good afternoon and welcome to this multi-location meeting of Cabinet Scrutiny Committee on the 19th of October 2022. I'm Councillor Phil Rogers and I'll be chairing this meeting. Please could you ensure that your phones are switched to silent for the duration of the meeting. In addition, when asked to raise your hand, if members who are virtually viewing this meeting could raise your electronic hand, and for members who are in the council chamber, just raise your hand. For the purpose of declarations, I would like to confirm that we will scrutinise items 5, 6, 9 and 14 on the Cabinet papers. Now I will move on to declarations, agenda item 2. Are there any declarations of interest? If any member has declarations in relation to any reports on today's agenda, can you please indicate it now?
I can't see any, Chair.
Thank you, Charlotte. We'll move forward now to agenda item 3, minutes of the previous meeting. You will see the minutes attached at pages 5 to 12 of your agenda pack. If you feel there's an accurate record of the meeting, can I please have a proposer and a seconder to approve these minutes, please?
I'll propose, Chair. Councillor Ken Phillips.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Phillips. And seconder, please.
I'm happy to second, Chair. Councillor Anthony Richards.
Thank you, Councillor Richards. We'll move along now to the Cabinet agenda for pre-decision scrutiny. As previously mentioned, we have decided to scrutinise items 5, 6, 9 and 14 on the Cabinet agenda. Starting off with item 5, Capital Budget Monitoring Report for 2022-23 as at the end of September 2022. Officers, would you like to add anything additional to the report?
Nothing to add. Thank you very much, Chair. Happy to take any questions members may have.
Thank you, Hugh Jones. Questions coming up? I have one down so far. Councillor Sonia Reynolds, please.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a couple of questions. I wondered first off about the Valley's. There are a number of budget items on the later pages of the report that indicate that we're so far zero expenditure, and I'm just wanted to be reassured that we are going to be spending that money, that there's not likely to be further reprofiling going ahead, or an indication if that might be the case. And specifically, I have concerns about the Valleys Task Force budget, as someone who was vice chair of the initial Valleys Task Force, and I'd like to know why, what the underspend is there, and why we're not spending at the current time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reynolds. Hugh, would you like to take this, please?
Thanks very much, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Reynolds. I don't have the answer specifically to that budget line. I can certainly get colleagues in the Environment Directorate to let you have a response in terms of the work that's being planned in relation to the Valleys Task Force regeneration line. As you say, the budget is 132,000 with nothing spent to date, but I can certainly get a response to you on that outside of this meeting, Councillor Reynolds.
Councillor Reynolds, is that okay with you?
That's fine, thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both on that. Councillor Cara Clement, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just wondering if I would certainly like the answer to that question as well. I'm wondering if the answers could be circulated to the whole committee.
Yeah, we can get it circulated to all members of the Scrutiny Committee. Thank you, Councillor Clement.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Hugh.
Yes.
Thank you. You will find the recommendations are listed on page 8 of the Cabinet agenda pack. Can I please have a proposer and a seconder? Can I have a proposer and a seconder first? Sorry.
I'm happy to propose.
And I'm happy to second, Chair. Councillor Bowen.
Thank you both. Can I please have if members do not indicate to the contrary, then I will take it that this decision is supported to Cabinet. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. On to item 6, Revenue Budget Monitoring Report 2022 to 2023, as again at the end of September 2022. Officers, would you like to add anything additional to the report? Hugh?
No, thank you very much, Chair. No, thank you.
Members have any questions for the officers, please? I have Councillor Sean Percy first, please.
Sorry, before Councillor Percy comes in, Councillor Carol Clement-Williams, you still have a hand up. I just wanted to check if that was a legacy hand.
Yeah, no, sorry.
It's okay, thank you.
Councillor Percy.
Diolch, Cadeirydd, thank you. Yes, the questions in relation to the 4% that we've allocated towards the school's delegated budget to cover pay awards. Obviously, the report outlines that we're anticipating those pay awards are going to be well, at least 5% because it's still up in the air. I'm wondering, have we got an assessment what the impact of that's going to be on the schools? Do we know if they're going to be able to cover that additional 1% cost within the existing budgets? Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Percy. Sorry. Yeah, so in relation to the report, we're proposing to allocate some equivalent to 4% because basically that's all we've had within the actual local government settlement. So we are making representations in terms of that. As you can see from the report, that's around £1.5 million for schools on top of the 1.2 million we'd have put in the original budget. So that will actually leave schools with a shortfall of around £2 million this year as a one-off. We will make that good in terms of the delegated schools budgets for next year. So that £2 million shortfall this year will be a hit on their reserves. And as at the start of the year, they had reserves of around £12 million. So again, we will be making representations and in so doing to the Welsh Government to try and ensure that we are fully funded for the pay award this year. And as you mentioned, they're only provisional pay awards anyway. So, but that's the forecast at the moment.
Thank you, Hugh. Councillor Percy, would you like to respond?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Only briefly, I appreciate that, Hugh, and obviously I totally understand the kind of general position around school reserve balances. I'm just wondering, in terms of specific schools, we obviously were aware some schools are in much better financial positions than others. Are we aware if there's schools that are going to be unable to take that hit this year? Because not every school, as far as I'm aware, has a healthy reserve balance that may be able to take that. So I suppose that's the crux of my question.
I'm not aware of any schools who will be in deficit as a result of this, but I can do some detailed analysis for you and respond again and circle it to all members of the committee if that's helpful.
It'd be reassuring if we could have that. Thank you.
Thank you, Hugh.
Sorry, Chair, could I just come in there, please?
Is that Andrew Thomas? Yes.
Yeah, yes, it is.
Just bringing you in. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Just in answer to Sean's question, what Hugh has just communicated to you, I've communicated to both Llan and Nash, the primary and secondary heads, and I did say that if this gets approved by members, then if any school experiences specific hardship as a result of this, then to come back to me and let me know. So obviously I'll feed that back into members should that be the case.
Thank you, Andrew. Mr. Percy, would you like to respond?
No, I'm reasonably happy with that, Chair. I just think in terms of in future, it'd be nice if we had a bit of an understanding of what those impacts might be at the time of the report. But I appreciate that if that information comes forward, that'll be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Percy. Can I next call Councillor Sonia Reynolds, please?
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to ask about page 19, the meal budgets for schools. Given that we've now started with the meals for all primary schools, I am very aware of the increased costs of food, energy costs, schools, the possible wage hikes, etc. that we're seeing. I wondered, the Welsh Government are obviously reviewing the cost at the moment per meal. What is the current cost per meal, and is that going to cause a dent in school budgets or in our budgets going forward, please?
Sorry.
Thanks very much. Again, sorry, Councillor Reynolds, I don't have that specific cost per meal information. I don't know if Andrew has any more detailed information he wants to add, or if not, again, once again, I'll respond to you and other cabinet members, like scrutiny members.
I don't, like you, Hugh, I don't have the information to hand. What I can tell you, Councillor Reynolds, is the last time we looked at this, the amount of money the Welsh Government were planning to give us did cover our costs. There were authorities across Wales which were saying that the amount per meal was nowhere near, didn't recognise the additional cost. And that was some months ago, and I think all members can understand that the last few months have been quite turbulent. So we will look at that again and come back to you with the figures. But when it was last looked at, the amount of money we were getting was covering our costs. Welsh Government's perspective at that time was that if they had to fund the higher costs, which were asked by some authorities across Wales, basically the scheme became unaffordable and wouldn't be able to deliver. So we've got to balance, you know, sort of the good that sits behind this programme with obviously the finances. But we can get back to you with the detail, Councillor Reynolds.
Thank you, Andrew. Councillor Reynolds, would you like to respond?
Thank you very much, both. I fully understand, you know, I'm happy to wait for the response, but like Andrew, it's a valuable initiative. You know, it's really important that we're able to carry through with it, but there are additional burdens and costs. Thank you.
Diolch, Councillor Reynolds. Councillor Rob Jones, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Sorry, my camera's not on. I got technical issues. In response to both Andrew and Hugh's response, I think it's a little bit unfair to mention a a £2 million deficit and then highlight £12 million in school reserves. We are fully aware that that school's reserves is delegated budget and we can't touch that in relation to it. And I think it's also unfair to rely on the use of those reserves for a £2 million shortfall, because based on percentages of 4 and 5%, a 1% cut in relation to some schools' budget will certainly adversely affect those that have a larger budget as opposed to smaller schools. It would also help if we had information as to how many schools are on recovery plans based on deficits of their budgets going forward. And it will be disproportionate in relation to the percentage cut, which in essence it will be on the 4% making up to the 5%, if that's the basic amount, across the board. And it would be interesting to see how that would adversely affect particularly the smaller schools against the larger schools. So I think there's a lot of detail that's missing here, but I don't want to be misled by the £12 million savings, because we can't take that into consideration and schools shouldn't be bailing themselves out using those savings. I just wanted to make that observation based on what officers said, and I'd be interested to hear their views.
I think that's probably a fair point. However, as I mentioned earlier, we can only give schools what we've received in the settlement. We would love to fully fund, but as a council, we can't afford it either. So, you know, a percentage saving will be proportionally the same, probably across all schools, I would have thought. So, in terms of the information we're going to provide on the per school basis, that will exemplify the impact of it, which will hopefully ease your concerns, Councillor Jones.
Councillor Jones, would you like to come back?
Chair, shall I just respond?
I can see Andrew was unmuted, so.
Yeah, what I would say, Councillor Jones, is more than happy to provide you with the details of the schools who are in a recovery position. And the other thing I think members need to understand is it's a slightly more nuanced position. Some schools, if we take special schools, for instance, have a high percentage of support staff, so not on teachers' conditions. And then some of those staff have had pay rises in excess of 5%, and, you know, quite rightly so as well. So, and that's exactly why I asked both sectors to come back to me if the sort of the proposed increase to their budget gives them any particular issue. So, so I think it's a slightly more nuanced position than just simply a 1% gap. Some schools will feel it harder than others, I would say.
Thank you, Andrew. Councillor Rob Jones, would you like to respond?
Yeah, Yeah, I don't want to enter into a name and shame here with individual schools being identified, but certainly if we could have the amount of primary school in number that are in recovery plans and secondary, I think that will give us an overall picture. You know, it would be unfair to identify individual schools on that basis. You know, most, if not all, councillors are governors, and I'm sure it's something that I wouldn't want to see published going forward, but I'd be grateful for any of the details that I think and I've mentioned that are relevant. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Jones.
And Chair,
we
that
have-
information will be readily available.
Thank you, Andrew. Councillor Carol Clement Williams, please.
Thanks. When Andrew, just for clarification, when you're saying it will be readily available, is it? I hope it's not just going to be published and then there's no sort of marker for councillors to know when it's there so they can look at it. I do have concerns about maybe a one-size-fits-all approach here. If it's going to be a percentage of the, I'm not sure my understanding is correct. Is it a percentage of the reserves each school has, as in every school pays 5% of the reserves they have? Or is my understanding wrong? I'd like the answer to that first, please.
No, what we're proposing is every school is funded to the tune of 4% of their pay bill, Councillor Clement Williams.
Thanks, because my recollection of, and I'm top of my head stuff now because I don't have the tables in front of me but some schools are going to be able to afford this far more than others will, and it will put some schools under pressure, more pressure than others, and I would hope it's already being done, but if it's not, I would ask if this could go on to the, I'm not on the committee, forward work programme of the Education Committee, with a plan on how, what the percentages are, how it will affect each school, and to look at any anomalies and how we are going to make sure that it's not adversely affecting some schools, so that the pupils in those schools are going to miss out more than the ones that have, and I know it's a very difficult balancing act, because some schools would argue that, look, we've been very careful with our money and why should we help out other schools? But on the flip side, some schools just don't have as much as others do. So I think that in the round, this needs to be looked at under a microscope by councillors to ensure that they can have a chance to scrutinise it properly. Thank you.
Can I suggest, Chair, that if I circulate around to members of the Scrutiny Committee the impact on individual schools, as I said I'll do, and then I leave it for the Chair, the Scrutiny, to decide whether he wants to take it further then and recommend that the Education Committee looks at it. Is that okay?
That's fine, Hugh. Yeah, we could have a look at the Chair of the Education Committee as well while we're at it. Councillor Clement Williams, you happy with that?
Well, yes, to an extent, but I mean, the chair may be happy, but other councillors on the committee, I hope that they would have the option, if it didn't go forward on the work programme, but they still wanted to scrutinise it, that they would have the option to speak to the chair and ask for it to be put onto the forward work programme. Thanks.
Certainly, Councillor Clement Williams, no problem. Oh, if Hugh could come back in, please.
Just to clarify, Chair, obviously members have already said they don't want individual detail per school circulated, so that's why I'm proposing to do that for the time being, and I leave it to the discretion of the Chair then. Thank you.
Chair,
Thank you.
I think what Councillor Jones said is he didn't want individual school name on recovery plans. That it could always be a private paper with individual schools on it.
Certainly, if that's what the committee choose they want, then that's no problem with me, Councillor Clement Williams. That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clement Williams. Are there any other questions, please? Sorry, Leader, Councillor Steve Hunt, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Can I just remind members that while the questions are very pertinent and good questions and fair questions, they have the ability, if they want detailed responses, to put in emails to officers in advance. can I just remind them so that the officers are prepared to bring those answers to you at this committee? I think that is very important, that you take that opportunity when you believe that you have questions that maybe the officers can't answer on the day. So it's only a reminder, and I would encourage all members to take up that opportunity in a way of having your responses here then fully and as accurate as officers can give you. That's all I wanted to say, Chair. Thank you.
Good point, Councillor Hunt. Thank you very much. Are there any questions? I don't see anybody else with a raised hand. The recommendation is listed on page 26 of the Cabinet Agenda Pack. Can I please have a proposer and a seconder? Councillor Goldsworthy proposes. Sorry, say it again, sorry.
Councillor James, I propose, Chair.
Who's that? Councillor James. Thank you, Councillor James. Do we have proposer? No. Proposed. Goldsworthy, yes. Thank you. If members do not indicate to the contrary, then I will take it that this decision is supported to Cabinet. Okay, we don't see any raised hands. Thank you very much. Can we move along to item number 9, please, on the agenda? The medium-term financial plan for 2022-23, 2027-28. Who would you like to add anything additional to this report?
I think the Chief Executive may want to say a few words.
Karen, if you'd like to come in, please.
Just very briefly for members, I think the report probably sets out some pretty high-level, clear messages that we are facing an extremely challenging outlook as far as the council's budgets are concerned. You've read the news feeds, you've looked at the television in the same way as I have over recent weeks. I think we all knew when we were coming into this financial year that we were going to be supporting communities through a cost of living crisis. I don't think any of us could have believed that we would have found ourselves in the situation that we are in. So I think just what I want to say to members at the moment, and obviously we can take questions on the detail of the report that's in front of you, is that we have started work in earnest to size the problem that we are facing here in Neath Talbot. It's a very, very difficult exercise to do at the moment because there's so much uncertainty on the part of UK government as to how much money we're actually going to get next year. We've been speaking with ministers, with officials in the Welsh Government over the last number of weeks. They are very clear that they have no more money to give local government. So we really do need to be trying to apply any levers that we have to try and get the UK government to understand how serious this is. For members that have been in council for some years, you'll have lived, as I have, through the years of austerity where we had some very, very challenging situations that we had to deal with. And I've got to tell you, it is a lot worse. And this is absolutely unprecedented in terms of the scale of it. So I don't want to panic anybody, and I certainly don't want to scare anybody, because I think what we need to do collectively at the moment is to show collective leadership. I think we have communities that are really struggling already with cost of living, the back of the pandemic, and we owe it to our communities to be able to get our minds together and think about the best way in which we can work through this. And you'd expect me to say this, but I also think we have to do good by our staff as well, because the last 2.5 years in particular, and it's still the case now, people are dealing with exceptional pressures within services. And it's only, I think, because of the goodwill and the fantastic talent we have in this organisation and the support we've been able to collectively give them that we've been able to land in the place that we are in. So I want to say to you clearly today that as a corporate directors team, we believe we have the basis of a plan that we can be confident in bringing before you over the next 6 weeks, that we think will enable us to keep the council stable, to enable us to carry on providing the services that particularly vulnerable people and young people in our county borough need from us, And I think as quickly as we can, I think we need to get into some member seminars where we can get into the detail of this with you so we can explain where the pressures are coming from, but also to start to bring forward some of the solutions that we think are available to us. Now, some of those things will be relatively painless because we've got some fortuitous things that have happened which will help, but only to a small extent. There are some other things that we believe we can do with the collective effort and goodwill of our colleagues and the support of members. And then there will be more challenging things that we need to be prepared to look at as well. So I just wanted to say that by way of introducing the report this afternoon. I think it's incredibly serious, and I don't want to paint a rosy picture for you. But equally, we are here to provide leadership now for our communities and for our staff. And as I say, we are confident as a corporate directors group that we can do a good job for you. So I just want to say that I think please ask as many questions as you want to about the report that we've got in front of you today. The figures are going to change as we get more certainty once the government makes decisions and tells us where we're going to be. And then in turn, the Welsh government makes its own decisions. But I hope you'd agree with me that the last thing we want to do is to create an unstable council in the midst of all of this chaos and hardship that people are experiencing. So thank you for letting me just say those couple of words, Chair, because I do really want to, as I say, get across that this is really challenging, but I also want you to know that we feel confident that we can provide the leadership that's needed in order to see a pathway through this.
Thank you, Karen. Obviously, hard work ahead. I think we've got the right team around us. I'll start with taking questions first. The first one's from Councillor Ken Phillips, please.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to firstly welcome the pick up on the issue of transitioning buildings to renewable energy and cost-effective and reducing energy costs by moving to more cost-effective renewable energy sources. Firstly, I wanted to obviously welcome that in the light of the climate emergency declaration and obviously the current situation with energy prices, which doesn't look like being solved any time soon. Are there any further details on that, or when are we likely to see some further details coming forward on that issue?
Karen, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Phillips. So immediately what I've asked to happen is some really clear direction to people to reduce consumption wherever we can. So we can switch, like we do in a home, we can switch lights off and make those kind of efficiency and economy measures. Let's do that because that's something we can all contribute to. In the next couple of weeks, we'll be bringing forward an initial set of proposals about how we can take further action to reduce consumption immediately. And including in that, we'll be looking at how many buildings, particularly office-based buildings, we need to be retaining in the portfolio and whether there is a need to be keeping all of those buildings open for all of the times they're currently open. So, I can tell you that on the back of hybrid working, some of our buildings at the moment have a 15 to 20% occupancy. The trade unions were very much encouraging us yesterday, a staff council, to be really looking at whether we need to be retaining all of these buildings or whether we should now be bringing forward a plan to rationalise. I think then on the back of that, there will be then those longer term or sort of medium term strategic interventions that we need to consider. So of those buildings that we decide as a council we're going to retain, how are we going to then move to a position where we can permanently reduce the cost of running those buildings? It's the right thing to do as far as public spending is concerned, but it's the right thing to do as far as the net zero agenda is concerned as well. So I guess what I'm painting a picture for you is an immediate, let's sort out things right now this year to reduce that expenditure overspend that Hugh talked about in the previous item on the agenda, because we need to be protecting our reserves position to help us through the next couple of years. So how can we turn off cost right now? Going into next year, let's make some decisions that enable us then to take that cost out so we start to see another level of reduction. But then I think over the coming months, I think you should expect us to be bringing forward a more strategic proposal. It won't just be office buildings, it'll be about what we need to do around depots and other facilities that we have to see how we can create that kind of medium to longer term programme that gets the right buildings in the right place for the right use, but actually that we're doing that in a way which is kind to the planet, but also a better value for money for the taxpayer.
Thank you, Karen. Councillor Phillips, would you like to respond?
Yeah, thanks for that. I just in response to that, just to urge officers and all of us to be sort of bold and ambitious and think big on the renewables issue, because it is such an important factor for from so many angles. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Phillips. My next question up is Councillor Sean Percy, please.
Thanks, Chair. I'll only ask part of this question now, I suppose, because Karen's actually addressed a lot of this in Ken's response, which was around the repurposing and reducing the accommodation portfolio. I'm aware this is something we've been looking at for a little while and been talking about for a little while. You've mentioned, Karen, that we're going to be bringing something forward quite soon. I was just wondering where we were on that piece of work, because I know post-COVID we were all thinking, what are we going to do with all these buildings? Is there a bit of a time, have we done a good chunk of that work, and is that, reaching a conclusion, I suppose?
In terms of the immediate and the short-term actions, Councillor Percy, we are expecting a report next week in Corporate Directors to look at, so we can bring that report forward, I would hope, very soon after. I think the word you use about repurposing is really important, because that's what I've been talking about when I've been talking with directors and with facilities teams. Because we all know, for example, we need to be creating more housing in the county borough. We've talked previously about units to support commercial and industrial purposes. So I think we've got to be smart in the way in which we approach this, in not talking about we're going to close buildings and then be left with derelict eyesores in the community. Let's think, as we work through this programme, how we can rationalise what we need for the purposes of functioning in a modern council, but can we use those facilities just as we've done in the pandemic and repurpose them to help us solve another issue that we know is a pressing issue for us. In terms of the more strategic interventions, that might not come with the first papers. You might get the advice in two parts. You might get the initial actions we believe we can take now, because we need to get on with that. But then we might need to take slightly longer around those more bold, as Councillor Phillips was encouraging us to be, bolder options, because I want to make sure that we have done enough of the thinking in the round around it, because what I don't want to do is solve one problem and then just set another lot of hairs running. So Simon I was talking with us this morning about that, but I think it'll be advice that we'll be bringing in two parts.
Thank you, Karen. Councillor Percy, would you like to respond?
Happy with that response, Chair. Diolch, thank you.
Diolch, Councillor Percy. Are there any other questions, please? Can't see any hands up. Sorry, Karen again, please.
So just to finish off the item, Chair, I'm guessing the members would prefer some information about the scale of this sooner rather than later. So once we've worked up those estimates, and I think what I was thinking is as soon as possible after the 31st of October, when the Chancellor is expected to make this Halloween announcement, would you want us to get a member seminar together as quickly as possible after that, so we can start to talk to you about what this looks like, what our initial ideas are, so you can kind of shape that as we're going along?
Thank you, Karen. Just had a hand up earlier, just checking. Councillor Anthony Richards, has your question already been answered?
Yeah, no, Karen answered my question on the repurposing. Just on that point, I will say a massive thank you for the report, and thanks to the Chief Executive for your summary as well. I think, we can all appreciate the significant budget pressures and things that are changing on a daily basis. So what you just proposed there after the 31st of October, I think we would all welcome. There's costs increasing all of the time as the result of inflation. But I do think Massive thank you to the team, because under the circumstances, this is a progressive document to try and reduce the pressures given to the volatile, economic environment. Of course, assumptions have to be made with all of the constant changes, but it's positive to hear that we're looking at ways to grow the sort of organisational capability, looking after our staff, as you said, to sustain the council into the future years. So, massive thanks to all those involved, and I'm sure we can all look forward to the report shortly after the Chancellor's announcement. So, diolch yn fawr.
Diolch yn fawr, Councillor Richards. I'm sure everyone needs encouragement in these difficult times. That's nice for you to say. Just checking this one. This report, this is a report for information, therefore we note the report. Moving along to our final item, item 14, please, on the agenda. This is the Welsh Language Promotion Strategy Review. Officers, would you like to add anything additional to the report?
No, thank you, Chair.
Okay. I start with taking questions. I've got two. Councillor Suzanne Patterson, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. It's not so much, I have one question, but I have a comment first. I really found that the task and finish group in the previous administration was immensely helpful to people such as myself who do not speak Welsh, don't read Welsh. I've missed the boat, but it was clear from that the many things that we can do as a council to help Welsh Government achieve their 1 million target. My question is, when will we know who is going to be populating this particular, it's not a task and finish, is it? It's a promotion strategy group. Thank you.
Sheena?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Patterson. The Head of Democratic Services, the proposal is that the Head of Democratic Services is given delegated authority to arrange and facilitate the establishment of the task and finish group. So subject to approval by members, then I'm sure that's something that she will be getting on with as soon as possible.
Oh, very pleased to hear that, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheena. Looking at the forward working programme, this item is just for noting. Sorry, I've missed one. Sorry, if I can come back, unfortunately. Councillor Rob Jones, sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. The question that I did ask was about population of this task and finish. I had a conversation with Rhian. Can I just, I did raise my hand, but you move forward, not a criticism. In relation to Councillor Hunt's responsible questions, sometimes questions are prompted by the response given by our officers, and therefore you can't preempt those replies. So we did indicate the questions in scrutiny that we wanted to ask, and these supplementary questions came as a result of officers' response.
Fair point, Councillor Jones. Yeah. Are there any other questions on that last issue, please? Okay, the forward working programme. This item is just for noting, unless members have any. Am I missed anything? Oh, sorry. Yes. For agenda item 14. The recommendation is listed on page 6 and 7 of the Cabinet agenda pack. Can I please have a proposal?
Sorry, Chair.
Sorry.
I've written it wrong in your
All right.
It's actually on pages 382. Sorry, that's my.
Sorry, pages, yeah, stepping back a bit. Sorry, everyone. The recommendations are listed on page 382 of the Cabinet agenda pack. Can I please have a proposer and a seconder?
I propose, Chair, Rob Jones.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Jones. And a seconder, please.
I second.
Councillor Patterson. Thank you. Councillor Patterson. Thank you very much, all. If members do not indicate to the contrary, then I will take it that this decision is supported to Cabinet. Okay, we don't see any hands. I will take that forward. Thank you. Agenda item 5, forward work programme. I understand this item is just for noting, unless members have any comments.
Chair, just for noting, I don't see any questions from members.
Thank you, Charlotte. Agenda item 6 is urgent items. I have no urgent items. As there are no further items, that ends the business for today. Diolch yn fawr, everyone. Thank you all for attending, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Chair. We'll just start setting up for Cabinet now for the officers that will be affected. Okay, so just
Diolch.
bear with us for
Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch yn fawr.
Thanks a lot.